shock. In his final interview, Joey Bishop drops a truth so candid it confirms what fans have long suspected. The legendary comedian and talk show icon didn't hold back, revealing secrets from decades in the spotlight. Behind the laughs and late-night glitz, a side of Bishop the public rarely saw comes to light. What he shares now changes everything we thought we knew about his life and career. Joey Bishop was the youngest of 5 children in a family of Polish-Jewish immigrants, whose life was defined by the harsh realities of the early 20th century. His parents had emigrated to America seeking opportunity, yet the economic landscape they encountered was unforgiving, especially for large families in urban neighborhoods. Growing up in South Philadelphia, Bishop experienced poverty firsthand. The family's limited resources meant that everyday comforts many children took for granted were often absent. In later years, Bishop would joke about not even having a sled to play with during the snow-laden winters of his youth, a small but telling reflection of his early hardships. The streets of South Philadelphia, with their bustling markets, crowded tenements, and close-knit communities, became the backdrop of Bishop's formative years. From a young age, he learned the value of humor as both a coping mechanism and a social skill. In a household where every penny counted, laughter often served as a temporary escape from the pressures of financial insecurity. These experiences not only shaped his personality, but also provided the foundation for the quick wit, charm, and observational humor that would later define his career. Despite the obstacles, Bishop displayed resilience and ingenuity early on. Surrounded by siblings and extended family members, he learned to navigate competition for limited resources, honing his ability to negotiate, entertain, and stand out, qualities that would later serve him on stage and screen. His immigrant background also instilled in him a strong work ethic and a keen awareness of human struggle, elements that subtly infused his comedy with relatability and warmth. The hardships of Bishop's early life were compounded by the social and economic instability of the 1920s and 1930s. The Great Depression further strained his family's finances, making survival a daily challenge. Yet even in these difficult circumstances, Bishop found small joys and moments of creativity, whether through street games with neighborhood children or by mimicking the entertainers he saw in theaters and vaudeville shows. These early exposures sparked a lifelong fascination with performance and show business. Just as Joey Bishop was beginning to carve out a place for himself in the entertainment world, fate intervened in the form of World War II. By the early 1940s, Bishop had started performing in local clubs, honing his comedic timing and cultivating a stage persona that was sharp, witty, and quick on its feet. His growing reputation hinted at the promise of a rising career in show business. Yet, in 1942, like millions of young American men, Bishop was drafted into the U.S. Army, an event that abruptly interrupted his burgeoning trajectory. Bishop's military service placed him in the Army's Special Services Division, a unit tasked with providing entertainment, morale, and recreation to troops stationed both domestically and overseas. While this posting allowed him to continue performing in some capacity, entertaining soldiers under wartime conditions was markedly different from the nightclub stages where he had begun to make a name for himself. The audiences were transient. Performances were often improvised or adapted for limited resources, and the pressure of boosting morale in the midst of conflict added layers of challenge and responsibility. Serving in the Special Services offered Bishop valuable experience, yet it was a double-edged sword. He was able to refine his comedic skills, experiment with material, and perform in front of diverse audiences, all of which would later inform his signature style. However, the reality remained that the prime years of his early adult life, the period when most entertainers solidify their early reputations and build critical industry connections, were largely spent away from the mainstream entertainment circuit. The momentum he had begun to establish in civilian life was necessarily paused, and opportunities that might have accelerated his rise were delayed. Despite these challenges, Bishop approached his service with characteristic humor and adaptability. He learned to gauge different audiences quickly, improvise under constraints, and develop a professionalism that would serve him throughout his career. Moreover, performing for soldiers instilled in him a profound understanding of timing, crowd dynamics, and the universal need for laughter in times of stress. Lessons that later distinguished him on television and in nightclubs. By the early 1960s, Joey Bishop had established himself as a respected nightclub performer and a frequent guest on talk shows, known for his sharp wit, relaxed stage presence, and ability to connect with audiences. His success on the nightclub circuit and in occasional television appearances seemed to make him a natural candidate for his own series. In 1961, that opportunity arrived in the form of The Joey Bishop Show, a self-titled sitcom that promised to translate his comedic talents from stage to screen. However, what seemed poised to be a career milestone soon turned into one of his most challenging professional setbacks. From the outset, the show faced obstacles that would plague its entire run. Critical response was lukewarm, with reviewers noting that Bishop's natural charm and improvisational skill on stage did not fully translate to the scripted format of a network sitcom. While Bishop excelled in ad-libbing and interacting with live audiences, the rigid structure of television scripts constrained the spontaneity that had made him popular. The show initially struggled to find a consistent identity, swinging between domestic comedy, workplace humor, and light drama in search of a format that resonated with viewers. Complicating matters further, The Joey Bishop Show underwent multiple changes in network scheduling and format. Initially airing on NBC and later moving to CBS, the series frequently adjusted its tone, supporting cast, and storyline focus. These retoolings, while intended to boost ratings, often left audiences confused or disconnected, and the instability made it difficult for Bishop to build a consistent viewer base. Despite his professionalism and commitment, the show never managed to capture the momentum or audience loyalty necessary to compete with other popular sitcoms of the era. By the mid-1960s, Joey Bishop had solidified his reputation as a skilled comedian, nightclub performer, and television presence. Despite setbacks with his earlier sitcom, he remained a recognizable figure in American entertainment. In 1967, ABC offered him an ambitious opportunity, his own late-night talk show, designed explicitly to compete with the formidable Tonight Show starring Johnny Carson. Bishop, accompanied by a young Regis Philbin as his sidekick, embraced the challenge, aiming to establish a foothold in the lucrative and influential late-night television arena. The show debuted amid high expectations. ABC sought to leverage Bishop's humor, charm, and conversational ease, pairing him with Philbin to create a dynamic on-screen duo. Guests included a mix of top-tier entertainers, rising stars, and notable public figures, while Bishop's comedic monologues and quick-witted interactions were intended to showcase his strengths. Despite these advantages, the program faced a daunting reality. Johnny Carson's Tonight Show was an entrenched institution with a devoted audience, nightly consistency, and an effortlessly charismatic host whose style had already become iconic. From the start, Bishop's show struggled to draw comparable ratings. While his humor and timing were widely respected, the program lacked the polish, momentum, and audience loyalty that Carson had cultivated over years. The pressure to compete directly with such a dominant figure made it difficult to establish a unique identity. Every segment was inevitably measured against Carson's effortlessly successful format. ABC experimented with tweaks to structure and pacing, but these adjustments failed to alter the underlying problem. Bishop's show simply could not unseat the established late-night powerhouse. Over the course of 2 seasons, Bishop delivered professional effort and maintained his trademark charm. Yet the ratings gap persisted. By 1969, ABC made the difficult decision to cancel the program. For Bishop, this represented a significant professional disappointment. He had been given one of television's most high-profile opportunities, a chance to transition from respected comedian to enduring late-night host, yet the network's gamble had not succeeded. The failure underscored the harsh realities of television competition. Talent alone was insufficient to guarantee success against a cultural juggernaut like Carson. Joey Bishop's association with the legendary Rat Pack in the early 1960s positioned him at the heart of Hollywood glamour and entertainment elite. Alongside Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, Sammy Davis Jr., and Peter Lawford, Bishop performed in iconic Las Vegas shows, high-profile stage productions, and occasional film projects, gaining visibility and prestige. The Rat Pack's notoriety offered its members extraordinary opportunities, both on stage and on screen, and Bishop's wit and understated charm complemented the more dominant personalities of Sinatra and Martin. For a time, his career was buoyed by this association, and he enjoyed access to the Hollywood spotlight that few entertainers of his background could have imagined. However, the partnership was not without tension. By the mid-1960s, Bishop's relationship with Sinatra began to sour, culminating in a professional and personal rift that would significantly alter his trajectory. One reported incident exemplified the conflict. While filling in for Sinatra on a private engagement, Bishop made specific demands regarding private plane travel and compensation. While reasonable from a professional standpoint, the requests were perceived by Sinatra as a breach of loyalty or a challenge to his authority, igniting friction between the two entertainers. Sinatra, whose influence in Hollywood and the Las Vegas entertainment circuit was immense, reacted by effectively cutting Bishop out of the Rat Pack's inner circle. The fallout had immediate and long-term consequences for Bishop's career. Without the Rat Pack's platform, he lost access to the high-profile film projects, Vegas residencies, and collaborative opportunities that had previously amplified his fame. Roles in major Hollywood productions became scarcer, and the visibility he had gained from association with Sinatra and the group diminished almost overnight. While Bishop continued to work in television and nightclubs, the departure from the Rat Pack marked the end of an era of elevated opportunities and elite access. Despite the setback, Bishop's professional resilience remained evident. He pivoted to other aspects of entertainment, including his own television projects, variety shows, and nightclub performances, leveraging his comedic skill to maintain relevance. In addition, Joey Bishop's personal life was long defined by stability and devotion, anchored by his marriage to Sylvia Rusga. The two met in the early 1940s and were married in 1941, forging a partnership that would endure for nearly 6 decades. A remarkable duration in an industry often marked by short-lived unions and public scandals. Sylvia was more than a spouse. She was a steadfast companion through the highs and lows of Bishop's career, offering support during the challenges of nightclub circuits, television ventures, and the volatile world of Hollywood show business. Together, they raised their son, Larry, balancing the demands of family life with the unpredictable schedule of a working entertainer. In 1999, this lifelong partnership was tragically disrupted when Sylvia succumbed to lung cancer. Her death marked a profound personal loss for Bishop, occurring during the late years of his life when companionship and emotional support carried even greater weight. The final chapter of Joey Bishop's life was marked by the quiet challenges of aging and the inevitability of declining health. Having spent decades in the demanding worlds of nightclub performance, television, and show business, Bishop entered his later years with a legacy of laughter, resilience, and a career that had spanned more than half a century. Yet, like many who age in the public eye, his final years were increasingly defined by the private realities of physical limitation and health concerns. After decades of retirement from active performance, Bishop's once vibrant presence began to wane as he faced the natural consequences of aging. Throughout the early 2000s, Bishop's health deteriorated gradually, limiting his ability to make public appearances or participate in media engagements. For someone who had spent a lifetime connecting with audiences, performing nightly on stage, and navigating the rigors of television, the shift from public visibility to private confinement was profound. Friends and family observed the challenges of managing chronic conditions, reduced mobility, and the strain that illness places on both body and spirit. These years were a stark contrast to the energetic entertainer who had once shared stages with Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, and other icons of the Rat Pack, or commanded attention as a talk show host and nightclub comedian. Despite his declining health, Bishop maintained the dignity and humor that had defined his personality, often reflecting on his career with warmth and pride. His home in Newport Beach, California, became both a sanctuary and a place where he could manage his medical needs privately, surrounded by loved ones who had been part of his long life. Friends and family recall that, even in these final years, Bishop's wit and insight remained sharp, though increasingly tempered by the limitations of illness. On October 17, 2007, Joey Bishop passed away at the age of 89 due to multiple organ failure. His death marked the end of a life that had traversed poverty, wartime service, the heights of show business, public disappointments, and deep personal loss. It was the culmination of the final tragic arc of a life lived in the spotlight, yet tempered by resilience, dedication, and the private bonds of family and friendship. Bishop's passing was noted by colleagues, fans, and media outlets, each acknowledging not only his contributions to comedy and television, but also the human vulnerability behind the public persona. What do you think about Joey Bishop? Leave us your comments in the section below. We hope you have found this helpful video. Don't forget to leave a like, share, and subscribe to the channel if you like it. Thank you for watching this and see you in the next videos. Goodbye.